The fault. We believe that all men are created equal. To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
You're the real deal.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
I'm sorry, did I understand you correctly to say that as you sit here today, you do not know how many human beings have died while in the custody of the department that you lead? And you, in preparation for today's hearing, you didn't ascertain that number, but you don't know it today?
I don't have an exact figure for you.
Do you have a rough idea?
Sir, what I can tell you
I'm talking about people who have died in your custody. You don't have the number?
I will get back to you with the number.
Okay.
So I was going to say, how does it look? But that did not look good. That did not work out well. All right. Well, everything's misset. Well, the studio looks beautiful, don't you think, everybody? It looks beautiful. It looks very pretty in here. Now, all right. Let's just do this. Does the video work? Maybe. Here, let me try this again. We'll say.
I'm sorry, did I understand you correctly to say that as you sit here today, you do not know how...
All right. How are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? Audio only. But we did all this work. It cost so much money. Well, thank you, everybody, for helping a little bit, but guess it didn't work.
Roy!
Get him on the phone. I know what it is. I know what it is. You know what it is. It's that stinking box down here. That's what it is. All right, everybody. So that's what's going on here. As you could tell, we were off yesterday because we are redoing the studio for various reasons that I still can't tell you. But believe me, it will all be for good. Okay, it will all be for good. It'll be something that you will be very happy that we did. But it's a long, odious process. And things, we thought were working. We checked them, and now apparently they're not. So that said, Bill Barr has decided to testify today. I had a lot of video of that. I could just tell you what he said. He said some really weird things. I mean, the guy is covering up for the cover-up. There is no question that he is obstructing justice to obstruct the justice that was obstructed. Does that make any... I mean, it's just going to be an endless thing because, it's so interesting. But back in the day when Starbucks asked me for a quote, I don't know if you remember this or not, but Starbucks was doing this thing where they put, they asked famous people for a quote that they wanted to put on their Starbucks cup. Now, I know somebody in the audience has that cup because it's on the internet because they took a photo and sent it to me so, I could have it for posterity. But what I said as my quote was that it takes 2 seconds to tell the truth and a lifetime to lie. And that is what has gone on here. And that is what continues to go on here. That the lying is going to be endless. It's never going to stop. As long as, President Trump is President Trump, and as long as the Mueller report is not made public, completely, unredacted, to at least to send over to Congress so that they can do what Mueller intended them to do, and that is oversight. Look, the reason why the question of whether or not the president obstructed justice was left open is because obviously Mueller wanted Congress to decide that for themselves. And they can't because they don't have the whole report. And so today, Bill Barr was going up to the Appropriations Committee, and really he was supposed to be testifying today about, the Justice Department in general, appropriations and whether things were funded and staffed. And we laughed because there's nothing staffed anymore. Donald Trump is doing something really, really dangerous and really evil. And if you follow me on Twitter at Randi Rhodes, then you know what it is. He is hollowing out the government. He is refusing to send any of his cabinet secretaries' names to the Senate for advice and consent, which is a constitutional obligation that has been in place since George Washington. In fact, during Washington's day, some in the Senate were complaining that George Washington was a little slow, and then sending up the nominees' names. And back then, it was like, a horse and a carriage had to bring from, his house to the Capitol. You know what I'm saying? It's just whatever. So Donald Trump is staffing himself up with cronies, with lackeys, with loyalists, with, Steve Bannon. He's a self-proclaimed Leninist. I was going to say Lemonist because, he goes and preaches his white supremacy when, the world hands him lemons. He goes to Europe and, preaches white supremacy to make lemonade. But really what he is not a lemonadist. He's a Leninist. And he was always about exploding and blowing up our government. And that is where we're at today. And Donald Trump is doing it. And it's frightening and it's real and it's happening. And so, for us, what we need to do is something that Sarah Kendzior, she had said back in 2016 when Donald Trump was simply the president-elect. She had said that what you need to do is to write a list of things that you would never do. You have to make a list of things that you value, standards that you hold for yourself, standards that you hold for others. Write about your dreams, write about your hopes, write about your children's future, write about your hopes and dreams for them. Write about the struggle that your family story has informed you about, that your ancestors had to overcome, and how that story shaped the person you are today. And then write down, after you write your story about your hopes and dreams, and write down what you value and write down what you cherish, write down what your personal moral standards will allow and what they won't allow, make sure you make a list of things you would never, ever do. Write a list of things you will never, ever believe. Because in the next year or so, it is possible that you will have to do them, or you will wish to do them, or that you will look at your list of things you will never do, and it's possible in the next year you will do them and you will forget that you said you would never do them. That is the way that you keep the light on for yourself, because the light in this country is being shut off. That is a fact. That has happened. What we have now for a government is an acting the Boeing executive is the acting director of the Secretary of Defense. The Secretary of Defense. The DOD is the most overfunded portion of our government, and we don't have a Senate confirmed person in that position. We have a Boeing executive in that position who is an acting Secretary of Defense. And I think you've all seen what he was willing to allow with the Boeing MAX 8. I think it was MAX 8, right? I think you saw what he was willing to allow. He would not pull that plane. He would not pull that plane. And that plane cannot fly. And that plane still is grounded because that plane is not safe. And we were the last country in the world to pull that plane off the off runways and out of the sky, because we have a Boeing executive as the Secretary of Defense. We have an acting director at the Office of Management and Budget, someone who does the math and counts the pennies and makes sure that the money is going where it's supposed to go and gets spent the way it was appropriated. We don't have a UN ambassador. We don't have an Interior Secretary. We don't have a Small Business Administration Secretary. We now do not have anybody in charge of the Department of Homeland Security, a department that was created after 9/11 to protect us from terrorist threats. Cybersecurity they're in charge of. We don't have anybody there, and he has stripped it down many layers deep. Donald Trump is not going to send anybody for confirmation. Donald Trump is unto himself. Donald Trump is an autocrat.
For launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show. will always be a big question. In 3 weeks, we'll see if you still have the same sympathetic questions when you come back. Because there's one thing that this administration's done better than any other administration in American history, and that is lie. President Trump descended the golden escalators at Trump Tower to announce his candidacy by saying Mexico was sending us the worst rapists, murderers. Then he said he was required to break up migrant families because of bad laws that the Democrats gave us. How about the one about Mexico paying for the wall? You want $5 million and you want $5 billion and you want the American public to pay for it. Isn't Mexico supposed to pay for it? Wasn't that the campaign promise? No, that's just another lie. It is as you can't see the reality of modern immigration or contributions of anyone who came from countries other than Norway and other parts of Europe.
Oh my God.
It's as if you and the Trump administration are blind. And you know what? It seems like you agree with Tucker Carlson that immigrants only bring danger and dirt and division. But I have to say the all-time record for lying in the face of all the evidence was a tweet you, Madam Secretary, sent out on June the 17th. And it says, "We do not have a policy of separating families at the border, period." That's your Twitter account. That's what you put out. Yet you came here today to tell us exactly is your policy of separating families and children from their families. Another lie. A time in which we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, a Jesus Christ who had to flee for his life with Mary and Joseph. Thank God there wasn't a wall that stopped him from seeking refuge in Egypt. Shame on everybody that separates children and allows them to stay at the other side of the border, fearing death, fearing hunger, fearing sickness. Shame on us for wearing our badge of Christianity during Christmas and allow the secretary to come here and lie.
Calling me a liar are fighting words. I'm not a liar. We've never had a policy for family separation. I'm happy to walk the gentleman through it again. A policy of family separation would mean that any family that I encountered in the interior, I would separate. It would mean that any family that I found at a port of entry, I would separate. It would mean that every single family that I found illegally crossing, we would separate. We did none of those. What we did do is uphold the laws that Congress has passed, and we prosecuted those who choose to come here illegally.
Yeah, bye-bye. You know, what's the saying? Good riddance to bad rubbish. If you never understood that expression, perhaps now you do. Because this is just amazing. I mean, what he does, you know, with his administration mouthpieces, especially the women. The women are given like the dirtiest, nastiest jobs in the Trump administration. You think about it. Sarah Sanders, Kellyanne Conway, they have to lie for this piece of crud. Betsy DeVos, she's the poster lady for ending funding for the Special Olympics. I mean, this stuff is actually happening in our country, and people are sitting there and saying, "Oh, so we're not gonna spend any money anymore on the Special Olympics. Those kids don't deserve to be, the recipients of an investment to build confidence, to show team sports, to, We don't believe in that anymore. We don't believe in giving a hand up to those who are just a little bit different than we are. Betsy DeVos is the poster lady for that. Christian Nielsen is the poster lady for putting children in cages and lying about it. Sarah Sanders is a punchline because she lies so much. Kellyanne Conway's old husband tweets about her because she lies so freaking much for such a ludicrous selection for President of the United States. I mean, it's just so unbelievable. Linda McMahon was the small business administrator. She's gone, and now she's working on the worst job in the world, getting him reelected. That's where Linda McMahon went. Oh, this administration is just, it is a blight on this country. I can't even call us a democracy right now. I just can't. The only thing holding us from a complete and total autocracy is a few courts, a few judges, a few justices. That's it. That's where we are. It is just so amazing to me. So you've got Kirstjen Nielsen leaving, and we have nobody in charge of Homeland Security. Not that I believed in this department anyway. You got to remember that the small government people, right? The Republican. What? Huh? Nothing? You got to believe that the small government people really love big government because they're the ones that invented the Department of Homeland Security. And just the word homeland alone, it sounded creepy then. It sounds even creepier now. They're the ones that invented this entire bureaucracy. So if it went away, I don't think I would care. But it's not going to go away. He wants to run it like, like a secret society. He wants to run it like stormtroopers. He wants tougher border enforcement. He wants tougher secret service. I don't know what. I mean, the other day I played a clip of him talking to Sean Hannity, and he was suggesting, not that I want to, but machine gunning people at the border. He was actually suggesting it would be easier if he could just machine gun them. This is coming.
Connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
We're capturing these people. We're getting them. But, we don't do like other countries. Other countries stand there with machine guns ready to fire. We can't do that, and I wouldn't want to do that, okay? It's a very effective way of doing it, and I wouldn't want to do it. We can't do it.
He's going to do it. You watch. He's going to do it. He is going to do it. We have all these kids. I don't even know if you know this. We have 3,600 kids in Florida, warehoused in a place called Homestead. Homestead used to be an Air Force base. Okay, it's not an Air Force base anymore. Now it is a warehouse for 3,600 children, which is a larger population than Homestead High School. Okay, and we've got more kids crammed in there than it's supposed to have. And they're putting even more kids in there. And our Congress people have gone down there and asked to go in there. And they're not being allowed in there. And they changed the law. I don't know if you remember when, I think it was Jeff Merkley of, where's Jeff Merkley from, Oregon? Jeff Merkley went down to, I guess, McAllen or one of those places where they were warehousing kids. And remember, he filmed himself and they wouldn't let him in. And they said, oh, you have to give 2 weeks notice. Well, what happened after that was Congress changed the law. It literally changed the law to permit congressional Congress members to permit them to inspect warehouses for children. It's a sick thing that we have to say those words, but we have but we do. And so they changed the law, and now the law requires that they be let in. The other day, like her or don't like her, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Donna Shalala, who is the newly elected representative from Miami, she replaced Ileana Ross-Lehtinen, right? Donna Shalala was just elected. She's a Democrat. And Debbie Marcarcel-Powell, they went down to Homestead to inspect, and they were blocked from entering the Homestead, I don't even know what you call it, warehouse. What do you call it? I mean, it's not an orphanage. Because these kids have parents, they just can't find them. And the Department of Homeland Security denied them access. And they said, quote, we have a significant interest in facility visits to ensure a facility visit does not interfere with the safety and well-being of our children. We require a minimum 2-week notification at the convenience and availability of the facility. This has been policy since 2015. Okay? But then Donna Shalala and Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Congressman Powell said your denial is now illegal. And they referenced the portion of the bill that had been changed, Section 234 of Bill 115-245. It's the 2019 Department of Health and Human Services Appropriations Act. It was amended this year to say members of Congress cannot be prevented from entering this facility or any facility for the purpose of oversight. Any U.S. facility used for maintaining custody of or otherwise housing unaccompanied alien children. And when the Congress people said this to the Department of Homeland, to Health and Human Services, Health and Human Services refused to answer them, and to this minute have not given a comment to any reporter. So the congressman said that during their last visit to Homestead, quote, "We witnessed children living in cramped, prison-like conditions." This is a joint statement, referring to the tour of the facility that they had taken earlier. Quote, "The idea to force even more children into an already full detention facility is not only unsafe, but it is cruel and it violates basic tenets of human decency." They are still being barred from entry. And now the government is telling them they're going to expand the facility because they need to detain more than 3,600 children there. And they're going to do it. Well, looking in the New Times Miami edition, you know, the New Times, I'm sure you have one in your city if you live in a halfway decent sized city, right? Denver's got one. I know Phoenix has one. Miami has one. So in the Miami New Times, there was an advertisement for workers to go work in that Homestead facility. And I tweeted the actual ad. The actual ad for people to work in that facility. You don't even have to, I think you have to have a high school diploma. But what they're much more concerned with is your physical condition, because they want to make sure that during what they say will be longer than an 8-hour shift, you are able to leap and lunge in order to restrain, and this is in the actual ad. It's on my Twitter feed if you want to see the ad. I quoted the ad and then I put a link to the ad so you can actually see the ad for, it's a job ad for help wanted in this Homestead facility. And it says that these people must be physically able to leap and to jump and to overcome an adolescent or an infant. They need to be able to restrain an infant. And they shouldn't have any objection to drugging children. You want to know, like how far this will go? This is how far it's gone. Now he's phoning into the Sean Hannity show and telling Sean Hannity, without comment from Sean, that it would be easier for him if he could use a machine gun at the border. It would be better. It would be easier. Not that I want to do it, but it would be easier if we could just kill these people. This is scary. This is the most bizarre I've ever seen any president be, ever. And that includes lying to get us into 2 wars that we didn't need to get into. Trump thinks, and you could thank Dick Cheney for all this, truly. Dick Cheney and David Addington and that Grover Norquist guy and all that with their unitary executive theory. This is the natural result.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Just so you understand, President Obama separated the children. Those cages that were shown, I think they were very inappropriate. They were built by President Obama's administration, not by Trump. President Obama had child separation. Take a look. The press knows it. You know it. We all know it. I'm the one that stopped it.
Oh,
President Obama had child separation. Now, I'll tell you something. Once you don't have it, that's why you see many more people coming. They're coming like it's a picnic, because let's go to Disneyland.
Oh, my God.
President Obama separated children. They had child separation. I was the one that changed it. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. We're not looking to do that, no. We're not looking to do that, no. Thank you very much. But it brings a lot more people to the border. When you don't do it, it brings a lot more people to the border. We are not looking to do it. But President Obama had the law. We changed the law. And I think the press should accurately report it, but of course they won't. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Okay, we have a manifestly insane man, and we're dealing with a lot of technical issues, but we're getting the bugs out is what we're doing. You see, here at the Randi Rhodes Show, we get the bugs out. We actually find solutions and solve our problems. Donald Trump, on the other hand, when he has a problem, he doubles down on the problem and then begins to eat his own. Do you see the difference between someone who's genuinely interested in solving their problems, whether the problems are technical or the problems are border security or the problems are that you want to build a wall or whatever? You don't make the problem worse by eating your own. You actually look at the problem and you say, oh, look, there's a problem. Let's take a pause and solve the problem so the people are happy. That would be the difference between me, Donald Trump, and a whole bunch of lunatic broadcasters out there who don't have any interest in solving anybody's problem. They're just pocketing cash. I mean, this just infuriates me because here we are on the precipice of a government ceasing to exist, and we really are there. And I can't even count on anybody. Well, there's like 5 people that I can count on, in this broadcast industry who will tell you the truth. Like 5 people. And the rest of them are just going to sit there and lie to you and enrich themselves just like, oh, I don't know, Donald Trump does. We'll be right back.
All in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. Now, in my letter of the March 29th, I identified 4 areas that I feel should be redacted, and I think most people would agree. The first is grand jury information, 6E material.
Oh, my God.
The second is information that the intelligence community believes would reveal intelligence sources and methods. The third are information in the report that could interfere with ongoing prosecutions. You will recall that the special counsel did spin off a number of cases that are still being pursued, and we want to make sure that none of the information in the report would impinge upon either the ability of the prosecutors to prosecute the cases or the fairness to the defendants. And finally, we intend to redact information that implicates the privacy or reputational interests of peripheral players where there is a decision not to charge them. Right now, the special counsel is working with us on identifying information in the reports that fall under those 4 categories. We will color code the excisions from the report, and we will provide explanatory notes describing the basis for each redaction. So, for example, if a redaction is made because of a court order in a pending prosecution, we'll state that, and we will distinguish between the various categories. This process is going along very well, and my original timetable of being able to release this by mid-April stands. And so I think that from my standpoint, within a week, I will be in a position to release the report to the public, and then I will engage with the chairman of both judiciary committees about that report and about any further requests that they have.
He's a smarmy SOB. I got to say, there's something about him that just rubs everyone the wrong way, I think. So I would say invest in Sharpies now, right? Everybody's got to have Sharpies because this is his new job, color coding redactions. Color coding, a black Sharpie means the president doesn't want you to see it. A green Sharpie means the president doesn't want you to see it. A red Sharpie means the president's son was mentioned. Do you know, this is so ridiculous. And Congress, I will tell you, has the right to see this report unredacted. Unredacted. Congress is perfectly capable of dealing with the sources and methods that the intelligence community uses to get intelligence. You know, the Congress sees all kinds of sensitive material, and they have the right to see this report unredacted. You know, the idea that instead of releasing the executive summaries, what is that? Is that me? That's probably this. Wait, let me fix this. Hang on. If I do this, you won't hear that anymore. Okay, so Congress has the right to see the unredacted report. Congress is very capable of handling classified and top secret information, better so than, say, a Jared Kushner, who is disqualified from holding a security clearance and yet has one. You see what I mean? This is all just such sleight of hand. This is all so smarmy. This is, Bill Barr has literally thrown out 22 months of an investigation into whether or not the president is a compromised individual, whether or not the president's family are compromised people. We know that they've been disqualified from holding clearances, and yet they have them. And this Mueller report, they can't send it to Congress, so Congress will not be able to do its oversight duty, its function. It is not a co-equal branch of government. This is another breakdown in democracy. This is another breakdown in the American form of governance. This is another violation of the constitutional, and they call it norms. It's not a constitutional norm. It is the Constitution itself that is being shredded in front of your face when that man testified this morning. He is literally sitting there tearing apart the U.S. Constitution, which all you freaks out there, all you maggots, all you Cult 45, you carry them in your little pockets there because you love it so much. You love it so much, but you got to what, beat it? Like a wife? I love you, I'm so sorry. This whole thing is falling apart, the whole thing. Bill Barr wrote a freaking memo. He wrote his own letter to Congress, summarizing it 22 with a flimsy legal analysis telling you, oh, there can't be obstruction because there was no underlying crime. Well, we would like to know if there was an underlying crime, number one. And number two, we would like to know, what happens when somebody, aids and abets a bank robbery, but the bank robbery doesn't happen. And then they go and witness tamper. They go to jail for obstruction. I mean, this whole thing is off the rails. Everything about this is off the rails. Oh, and then the smarminess of him. I keep forgetting Charlie Crist is a congressman, don't you? I mean, I would like to forget that Charlie Crist is a congressman. Charlie Crist was a Republican, then Charlie Crist was an independent, and now Charlie Crist is a Democratic congressman from Florida. And he was asking William Barr about this healthcare thing. Now, I want you to remember how ridiculous this all is. Okay, William Barr's Justice Department is arguing in court to throw away the entire ACA, to throw away all of Obamacare. Now, the best parts of Obamacare are you can't have caps on, how much health insurance it can be spent on your behalf. There's no lifetime cap. There's no yearly cap, right? You get sick, you get your bills paid because you've paid your premiums. Okay. We also know about pre-existing conditions. That is something that you can't be denied coverage for having, right? And they're trying to throw away the ACA. The Medicare donut hole would close next year. And Barr has his Justice Department in court trying to uphold a lunatic judge in Texas's decision that the entire ACA has to be thrown away because it's unconstitutional, because the individual mandate was taken out of it which is why our premiums went up. That's one of the reasons why our premiums went up. Because people who are choosing to go naked, people who are choosing to go without health insurance used to have to pay $600 a year to not be in the pool because they were going to end up costing us more. So now they get rid of the individual mandate, and of course it costs us more. And they got rid of the risk corridor payments to the insurance companies, which also added to our premiums. And that's why our premiums are so high, okay? But that said, they're trying to get rid of the entire ACA at this Justice Department. And this Attorney General has deployed the flying monkeys, his prosecutors, to actually argue against the constitutionality of the ACA, which the Supreme Court has upheld 2 times before. So Charlie Crist was asking Bill Barr, why is he doing this if he intends to cover pre-existing conditions? And Bill Barr's answer was so smart. He was like, well, let the courts decide. What are you worried about? What are you worried about? It'll all work out. What are you worried about? What the...
Connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. Are you aware that the Affordable Care Act made discrimination against pre-existing conditions against the law?
Yes.
Do you agree that the Texas Affordable Care Act ruling, if affirmed by the Supreme Court, would eliminate the law in its entirety, which would necessarily include eliminating protections for pre-existing conditions?
Yes, and the president's made clear that he supports protection of pre-existing conditions.
How?
But pursuing this case would remove them.
Is that a reason? Is that a reason to take a legal position?
Oh my God!
I hear members of the committee basically saying, you've taken this legal position that can have bad consequences, bad policy consequences.
Yes.
But as you know, as an attorney general, you take positions based on the law and you litigate them in court, and the court makes the decision.
They already have.
That is true.
So if this was such a hokey position to take, what are you worried about?
Oh my God!
What am I worried about?
Yeah. You're acting like the
Millions
sky
of
is...
Americans.
You say that the administration's position is hokey, and then you say the sky is...
say that. Those are your words, sir.
So if it's not hokey, then...
What am I worried about?
I'm worried
about millions
I'm a lawyer.
I'm
not in charge of health care. I litigate on behalf of the United States.
I'll try not to interrupt you. I would expect the same. What I'm worried about are the people I work for, the American people, and the people you work for, sir. And it's our duty around here to look out for their best interests as public servants. And that's what I'm worried about.
We're very worried about them. And the president's made clear that he wants a strong health care legislation, and he wants to protect pre-existing conditions in the event that the court accepts the legal arguments that we've presented.
Worries about it so much so that you're pursuing a case that would take it away from them. Well, the irony of that is rich.
Well, as I say, I
yield my time. Thank you.
That was it? I mean, we need somebody to fight for us a little harder than that, Charlie Crist. A little bit harder than that. The Supreme Court has ruled 2 times before that the ACA, Obamacare, is constitutional. And you have an attorney general who sits there and says, well, I got to take a legal position, and I'm worried about the American people too, but the president made clear that he wants to protect. Where is his plan? You don't have a replacement plan. All this president has been doing is trying to repeal that law because he said he wanted to. That's the only reason that we've ever been given for why not repair the risk corridor payments. Why not restore those? Why not restore the individual mandate so that people in this country have to pay a little bit of freight if they choose not to carry health insurance, so that when they show up at the emergency room and I have to pay for them, they've already paid. I mean, $600 a year? They're going to go to the emergency. You can't even go to the emergency room and have a bone set for less than a few $1,000s. $600 a year, that's a bargain. And they repeal the individual mandate. This this is such a smarmy attorney general. I in my whole life, I never saw anybody. What are you worried about? I took a legal position. The president's very concerned about, well, where is the president's health care plan? Where is the president's plan for border security? He is out of ideas. The only idea that the president has for border security is to kill people now, to warehouse babies. Oh my God. The Department of Homeland Security does not have a secretary. It doesn't have a deputy secretary. It's missing 2 undersecretaries. It's missing a Secret Service director. We don't have a FEMA director. We don't have a FEMA director. It's almost summertime. We don't have an ICE director, which, some of these things don't bother me so much. We don't have a general counsel at the Department of Homeland Security. We don't have a Citizenship and Immigrations Services Director at Homeland Security. There's no Inspector General. Now, that position really scares me that there isn't one, because the Inspector General makes sure that the laws are faithfully executed inside the Department of Homeland Security, and we don't have one. We don't have an IG at the Department of Homeland Security. We don't have a Chief Financial Officer at the Department of Homeland Security. We don't have a Chief Privacy Officer at the Department of Homeland Security. And now he's going to take the Customs and Border Protection Commissioner and somehow violate the Vacancies Act and put this guy it's like Prince Salman. Just skip over the order of succession, except ours is a law. And theirs is, some sort of blood thing in Saudi. This whole country is being dismantled. All oversight is being hobbled. The ACA is about to be dismantled. Healthcare is about to go away. Why? Because the more chaos he causes, the happier he is with his chances to anoint himself. And God forbid something happens. He's counting on something. Because you think the Bush experience is lost on him? Bush did this unitary executive thing, and he did this unitary executive thing by attacking an unarmed nation called Iraq and getting this whole country to rally around the wartime president. That is not lost on Donald J. Trump. Donald J. Trump only cares about Donald J. Trump. Donald J. Trump only cares about what his version of winning looks like, and that means his family. That means he wins, not you win. David on Long Island.
Hey, gorgeous.
Hi.
I just want to say 2 stupid things. Shame on the media for not confronting him when they question him about what he said today on the news. Why don't they confront him? Does that make any sense to you? I would say, how you're lying to me.
You mean saying that Obama started?
Yes. I apologize. I'm getting a little emotional right now.
No, it's okay. I just want everybody to remember Jeff Sessions gave a little speech at the water's edge there. Remember? And he said he was implementing this family separation policy as a deterrent. Okay?
Yes.
So if Jeff Sessions said that he was implementing, that means it didn't exist before, that he was inventing and implementing. So it didn't exist before. So, obviously everybody knows Trump lied. The base of the Cult 45, the MAGA, they love that he lies. They love...
Why don't the media just press him right there and lie?
Because we all know he lies, okay? And 2/3...
The assholes, my parents,
and 2/3 of us despise him because he lies, and 1/3 of them cheer because he lies, because they want this country taken apart.
I don't get it, my dear. I love you.
Well, I'll tell you what's sad. What's really sad is we don't deserve what we're about to go through, and we are about to go through it. That's the truth. But what's not even sadder, but what's very sad for the people who still support him is they're going to go through it too. And those people are the worst situated. Those are people who really cannot afford to go through what we're about to go through. Some of us will make it through, just like some of us made it through the crash of 2008 and others of us didn't. And the people that hadn't made it through the 2008 depression, they're the Trump voters. And now what little they have is about to be stolen from them.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Mexico, of the last 4 days, has done more than they've ever done. We were talking about that before, Kevin. They're apprehending people now by the thousands and bringing them back to their countries, bringing them back to where they came from. And I think you see that. That's at their southern border. And that's a big difference. They've never done that before.
They've done.
When I say never done, I mean like in 30 years they've never done it like they're doing it right now.
Oh! He's lying. All right. And I know people love, there are people in this country that love that he lies because they think that he's playing some chess game, you know, that he's got some strategy or he has an, some sort of a plan. And he doesn't. He doesn't. He doesn't have a plan for infrastructure. He doesn't have a plan for healthcare. He doesn't have a plan for the border. He doesn't have a plan for healthcare. He has no plan except for himself. Okay? This is all Donald Trump does is think of things to help Donald Trump. He isn't the least bit interested in any American's problem, okay? He thinks of you as trash. He actually goes to the bathroom on a gold toilet, all right? The guy is so disconnected from everyday Americans' lives. The idea that, he was going to do something about addiction, right? He was going to do something about oxycodone. He was going to do something about, if he undoes Obamacare, there goes everybody's chance to go to treatment and get it paid for, okay? Medicaid expansion, there goes everybody's chance to go to treatment and get it paid for. Medicare, the donut hole, there goes every senior citizen's ability to get the prescription drugs that they need without falling into a big hole in the middle of their treatment where they have to start paying out of pocket. I mean, this man doesn't care. He has no plan. You've not seen a health care plan. You've not seen a border security plan. You've not seen an infrastructure plan. And you won't because he doesn't have one. He does not have one. What he's doing is consolidating all. Do you know who's in charge of immigration now? This is like Jared is in charge of world peace. It's a joke, except it's dangerous. It's absolutely dangerous. So now you got some 33-year-old self-loathing Jewish man named a 33-year-old, a speechwriter named Jason Mill. A speechwriter is now in charge of the entire 225,000 strong Department of Homeland Security. Really? That's a solution to anything that ails you? Are you freaking kidding me? This is sick. This man literally is stripping our country down for parts. Don't you get this? His cabinet is full of white supremacists. Steve Bannon, like I said at the beginning of the show, Steve Bannon actually, here, I'll quote you him. He said, you know what solves it? When the economy crashes, when the country goes to total hell and everything is a disaster, then you'll have, and he laughed, you'll have riots to go back to where we used to be when we were great. That's what a reality TV star said in 2014 on Fox News about why he wanted to be president. You know what solves it? When the economy crashes, when the country goes to total hell and everything is a disaster, then you'll have, and he laughs, you'll have riots to go back to when we used to be great. That's Donald Trump. All right, here's Steve Bannon. Quote, I'm a Leninist. Reporter, what do you mean? Lenin, he says. Lenin wanted to destroy the state, and that's my goal too. I want to bring everything crashing down and destroy all of today's establishment. Now, there are people in this country that really, really don't appreciate what they have as far as democracy, as far as checks and balances. They only understand the corruption, and there's tons of it, and it's all because of the money in politics. Okay, that is the underlying cause of this virus of corruption that we are experiencing in this country and have been for quite a long time. But those people want the entire government to come crashing down. Somehow they think that's going to solve whatever their problem is. This is not going to solve whatever your problem is. This mirrors the intention of every tin pot dictator who has ever come down the pike anywhere, everywhere. They see people who are disappointed with levels of corruption, who are disappointed with pork, who are disappointed with government waste, and they see the anti-establishment types as the people who are going to come in and fix it all by crashing it all down to the ground. Well, I got news for you. If you want more democracy, you don't get rid of democracy. It is just that simple. And you certainly don't get rid of democracy when you have a leader who views human beings as animals, as trash, not as real human beings, or as beings to be discarded. That does not solve whatever your problem is, I promise you. Yes, we are a deeply flawed nation. Yes, we have poor people in this country. We have had minorities in this country that have faced state-sanctioned cruelty and limited opportunities as compared to some of their counterparts living in bigger cities or in more diverse neighborhoods. But that pales in comparison to authoritarianism. All that strife pales in comparison to losing your ability to move freely about this country in safety and security. We can still speak. Yes, we're challenged all the time. And yes, there are trolls and bots and all kinds of annoying creatures on the internet. And yes, when I tweet, I have to deal with morons and I have to deal with bots and I have to deal, but at least I can still speak. We're still free to debate each other and come up with ways to improve our country. We can still scream and yell at each other, and we can still mock each other and tell each other your political choice is terrible. You will miss those days. You will miss them. Our freedoms are already compromised. If this man closes the border, you realize that means you can't leave either. I want you to process all this today. I want you to understand that you should write down this date. April 9th, 2019, the day I told you that this government is being dismantled, that this democracy is existing on the thinnest of threads. We are in a very dark place, and the lights are getting even dimmer. You need to do what Sarah Kendzior, cannot say her name, Kendzior. You need to do what I posted her article. Her article was written back in 2016, okay? And you need to do what she's telling you to do. And what she's telling you to do is to make a list of the things that make you you. The things that you cherish about your own character, about your own life. Write down your memories. Because if you don't, you might forget that you were once a decent moral person. And the little voice that reads to you, you know that little voice like when you read a book or a newspaper article, even a comic book, there's a little voice that reads to you. That is your conscience. And you need to write about what your conscience is telling you today you will and will never do. Make sure that you write about who you are and what informs your experience. The standards that you hold for yourself, the standards you hold for others, what you expect in a civilized society from yourself and others, what your dreams are for you and your kids and your grandkids. Write about everything that you know is important to you. And then write down what you would never do. What line you would never cross. Because it is very possible that in the next year or so, you will be facing the decision of whether or not to do those things. Write down what you will and will not believe, because it is possible that in the next year or so, you will start to believe those things that you swore you would never believe or be forced to say you believe them. Our country is being dismantled by a reality TV star and a 33-year-old white nationalist speechwriter and a disheveled freak of a man named Steve Bannon, who is a self-proclaimed Leninist, so that they can have whatever we have all for themselves.